Real quick, before we start this podcast episode, I just want to say thank you for tuning into the Marc Colcer podcast. I know you've got a million things that you could be doing right now, and the fact that you're taking time out of your day to watch this podcast episode truly means the world to me, and I just want to say thank you for that. If you'd like to continue to support the podcast, right below this video, if you could hit the subscribe button, and then, hey, if you got some more time and you want to hit the download button, the comment button, the like button, the share button, any of those buttons, it's greatly, greatly appreciated. It helps for other people to find out about the podcast, and it helps for you to be notified about future episodes. So if you guys could take a quick second, hit the subscribe button, I would really appreciate that. Outside of that, this episode and every other episode is brought to you guys by Roast Umber Coffee. As some of you guys know, I co-founded Roast Umber Coffee, and we have the greatest farmers in Guatemala and Honduras and the greatest roaster in Grand Rapids, Michigan, all to bring you guys the greatest cup of coffee possible. So if you'd like to try it out, go to our website, use the coupon code MARC30, and you're going to get 30% off your coffee. Now on to the episode. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Welcome to the Marc Colcer Podcast. All right, bro. How we doing this morning?
Yo, feeling great, feeling refreshed.
There we go. There we go. How was your LA experience?
Yo, I'm definitely not an LA type of guy, for sure. I feel like it's the pace is a little slow here for me, but it definitely gave me a lot of time to just like wind down and have like kind of like think through the past few weeks, because the past few weeks have been insane.
Oh, really? What's happened?
Well, Solana just got
We'll get into all that. Yeah. We'll get into all that. Yeah, no, man, it seems like you had a nice productive trip, though. You came out here on Tuesday night. I'm always kind of curious what people do when they come out here. Like, are they just kind of off dicking around when they come out here? Are they like ready to get to work? Kind of what's their mentality when you're here? And first night you were here, we all went out to eat, and we had a bunch of Web3 people that were, I think we had people from 4 different countries that were chilling with us, and that was nice and fun, and had some good chats about, Solana, had about the NFT space in general, things like that. And then on Wednesday, I saw you got together with more people, and then last night we had the DGOD meetup, bonfire meetup. And outside of it being cold as hell, it was a fun time.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's, I think like, I've really just been on a conquest to connect with as many people in Web3 as possible. Pretty much just want to get feedback and get like different perspectives on everything that Rave3 is doing. It's really hard to get that kind of connections where I'm currently living in Jersey. I need to like travel to New York City, which is, only like 20 minutes away. But yeah, I don't know. LA just, you get a whole different perspective. And I think I connected with a lot of chads thanks to you, and thanks to like, the DGODs community as well.
Yeah, no, we always love that. Always love that. Dude, it's like, that's my favorite part about Web3 is like, as much as I love connecting with people on Twitter and stuff like that, man, it's so great when you meet somebody in person, though I am still a fan of name tags. Because I always tell people like it sucks, because even like events like last night, like I'll meet somebody, and like, if I don't have like a straight up 10, 15 minute one-on-one conversation, I just forget what your like username is, because it's just so many times somebody's like, oh, I'm Crypto Boy 12, and I'm like, the odds of me remembering Crypto Boy 12 is so low. That's so hard, So I need name tags. So I'm bullish on name tags, and I think we all need to start using them at Web3 events. I think it'd be a game changer.
Yeah, definitely. I think I start every conversation now where I just take out my phone first thing. I'm like, yo, what's good? My name's Noah. And then I just have my phone out. I'm like, let me see your PFP, bro.
There we go.
That's just like off the rip, just get things started.
I'm going to start just taking a photo of them and be like, you know what? Listen, I'm putting it right in my contact, and that way, boom, I know. Yeah. Maybe that's the idea. They're not going to like being me just taking a photo of them right away, but I might have to do it.
A lot of people do that. That's actually a good trick too. Just the photo, so you remember the person's face.
Might have to do that. But because then you feel like an asshole. Like you see them again at something else, and then you're like, hey man, good to see you, and I'm like, fuck. And then that
happens to me all the time.
You got to wait for them to introduce themselves to somebody else, and then I get it. But also, my brain is terrible at remembering names, so that's like, it's not only just Web3 shit. Like, I'm just terrible in general.
And birthdays, I'm bad with birthdays. As
terrible,
well, so.
Terrible. But all right, dude. So for people who don't know who you are, can you give a 30-second intro to yourself?
Yeah, easily. All right. So what's up, everybody? My name is Noah, aka Medijit on Twitter. I am the founder of Rave3. I have been working on Rave3 full time for the last 7 months, so since December. Before that, though, I was working on Solana as a dev advocate engineer for Metaplex, and before that, I was at Sharky, where I was a smart contract engineer. Helped them get to MVP. Shout out to Anton and Rhea. Those are the homies. Shout out to Sharky5 if you haven't heard about them. #1 NFT lending protocol on Solana. And before that, I was working at Polygon. So yeah, I've had a pretty wild, crazy experience over the last 3 years working in Web3. But I feel so grateful, and I feel like, a lot of these experiences have really shaped me to be the leader that I am, and that it's given me a great foundation to take Rave3 to the places where I want to take it.
There we go. So you were telling me yesterday, before all of that stuff, that you had also taken like a coding boot camp back in like 2020. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
And so what was that like? What compelled you to kind of take a coding boot camp? And like, did you have any coding background before doing that?
Yeah, no, actually I didn't. So basically after college, I had no idea what I was doing after college. I was kind of scrambling and just trying to figure things out. I had worked in I started off my college career going heavy into Wall Street, like finance. Like that was like the typical thing you did at my college. And, I interned at Bank of America for 2 summers, like freshman and sophomore year. And then junior year, I was like, I studied abroad, and I was like, I was reading a lot of books, and I was like, honestly, entrepreneurship, I think, is the move. So I tried and failed at a few startups, entered some startup competitions while I was in college, built up a name for myself, but like nothing really kind of came of any of it. But post college, after we graduated, I got tapped by one of my homies, and he's like, I'm launching this on-demand urgent care. Do you want to help me? And I was like, let me look into it. And basically the business model was basically, it's like, we're going to provide a supplemental healthcare insurance because healthcare insurance is really expensive. So like, I'm paying, I'm buying healthcare off the marketplace right now, and I'm paying like $350 a month, that, and like, I think some people are probably paying like around $500 depending on like what your needs are, et cetera. But that's really expensive for like any family or individual. For the most part, like that's like at least like maybe like more than half of rent. So my friend was like, what if we could just like hire a bunch of nurse practitioners and then have them on call and have them sent out to people's homes to like write prescriptions and check up on them, because typically most of the time you only need to see a doctor, or you only need to go to the doctor's office if you're like feeling sick like once or twice a year. You don't necessarily need to be paying like so much money. So it was a great idea, both from like a monetary perspective, but also from like a humanitarian perspective, in my opinion. Like, I think the healthcare system was like, is pretty trash, yeah. Like just objectively. So I was like, let's go ahead. But I worked on that for about 2 years, and, I learned a lot, and I was really in the trenches for 2 years. Like literally we were paying ourselves, like we were living off like maybe $1,000 to $1,500 a month. Like it was like,
that's the grind.
It was really fucking rough, but we were closing deals, growing the company. It was just brick by brick, B2B. I was doing B2B sales. However, after 2 years, I didn't necessarily see a future for myself in the healthcare industry. And I just, like, it was just, I felt like I was losing passion, and I was like, okay, like 2 years in, like, I don't know if this is for me. Like, startups usually require like 10 years of like commitment. Right. So basically I decided the week before the week of like all the COVID lockdowns. So this was like maybe 2021, I think 2020. Yeah. 2020, the week of all the lockdowns. I'm like, I'm leaving. I told my co-founder, I'm leaving. I'm going to go just figure things out. Then the COVID lockdowns happened, and, basically everyone at that point, once that happened, everyone needed on-demand healthcare because nobody wanted to leave their homes. So like, that startup just started booming right when I left. I didn't tell a lot of people this, but like as soon as I left, the company just ripped. My co-founder ended up raising money through Y Combinator, through SoftBank, just absolute. This dude, my co-founder was an absolute Chad, like just truly a brilliant dude, very methodical, very much an operator. So I was very happy for him, very happy for everything that happened. But yeah, I was like, you know what, it wasn't meant for me. Right. So I took some time to figure out what I wanted to do. I looked into like, more sales roles because like that was very adjacent. However, nothing was really panning out because everyone was like, yo, you need more experience, like more like professional experience. But I'm like, yo, I was literally closing like tens of $1,000 deals for like this healthcare startup. Like, I was doing it on my own, like, and you guys don't trust that. It was weird, whatever. So I started calling up some of my buddies, seeing what they're up to. One of my friends is like, yo, I'm taking this coding boot camp. And he's like, and I was like, really, why? And he's like, yo, I don't know. I think like coding is like the future, machine learning, data science. It's all there right now. It's like what's hot. And I was like, interesting, because this guy, he was also one of my finance bros, and he was working at a hedge fund making like a lot of fucking money. And he was like, yo, yeah, I just don't like it. Like the culture's not for me. And like coding is going to give me more freedom. And I was like, all right. He's like, yo, you should give it a shot, man. Like it's already been beneficial for me. And I was like, okay, fuck it. So, I trusted him, and I took the coding boot camp, and I enrolled. So I think I left the company in like February, March, and then I got enrolled in May of 2020. And then I graduated that at the end of November of 2020. And, within 3 months, I was able to land a job as a data engineer for like a small service company. But during this whole duration of me like learning how to code, crypto was going crazy. Like the stock markets were just crazy during the pandemic time. And I was, doing a lot of research on like, investing, because, we weren't going out. So I was just in my house, just like learning how to code and just like, learning about crypto basically. And I fell in love with Solana because I had read about like Anatoly. I had read about like all the possibilities, like the performance capabilities of Solana. I'm like, yo, this one seems like a shortcut winner. And, by the time I graduated, I was like, I want to work in crypto, but, I got to take what I can right now. So I started as a data engineer. And, during that whole time, I was just like, still applying to crypto companies. And I, found out that Twitter was like kind of like the town square to go where you get like crypto connections. So, cold DMing a few people, I somehow landed an interview with Polygon. And then, within like 3 months of me working at the company, I ended up leaving this company and I go to work for Polygon. And that's kind of where everything started to take off, because once I began working at Polygon, at the same time when I was living in Jersey, Solana started having IRL meetups in New York City. And I started going to these meetups, and that's where I met like some like OGs, like OX Banana. I don't know if people know who that is. He now works at Solana Foundation. There was also like a lot of founders like of Cypher Protocol, Jet Protocol. I don't know, for people who know about like Saber was like kind of a scandal on Solana, but like the founders were there too. I met them as well. A lot of people, and like this was also, and so like basically like, I was working at Polygon, and at the same time, like so much stuff was happening with Solana, and like my love was just like growing for Solana further and further, even though I was, working full time for Polygon. And it got to the point, like at some point, like during like towards the end of the summer, that Solana NFTs started getting pretty crazy. SMBs just dropped, DEA was dropping, and I was just on Twitter, like just fucking shit posting, like saying crazy shit, like just talking like a G-Gen. Like this is when my D-Gen era began. And people at Polygon found my Twitter and were like, yo, like, why are you like tweeting about Solana? Like, what's so interesting about Solana? What's Solana doing that Polygon should be doing? And, I gave them like all the insight. Like, this is like my perspective from like, a D-Gen, from someone who's just like really like, who's actually like fallen in love with like the culture and the community of Solana. And that opened doors for me at Polygon. So I got connected with some of the higher ups. And, during my time at Polygon, where I was doing a lot of cloud engineering, cloud infrastructure, I also got the opportunity to do some forward facing stuff where I got to meet with like, our developer ecosystem as well. And that's pretty interesting because it eventually led to me, doing dev relations at Metaplex. But before I went to Metaplex, I was still at Polygon, and I was, working at Polygon during the day, but like DJing on Solana at night. And I was like, towards like the fall and winter, I was like, okay, I got to start like building on Solana because this is where I want to be at this point. DeGods had just minted. I was like, yo, like I'm like fully in. Like I put all my money into DeGods, and I was like, I just want to like build. And like, you know, at the time, like people were building for DeGods. I had met Jit Romney, who was like building a bunch of cool stuff for DeGods, and I was like, I want to build some cool stuff too. So I started working on like some fun side projects using like the Golang SDK, and you know, like learning a little bit of Rust here and there. And you know, eventually it got to the point where I was just like, too much of my time was being spent on Solana. So I was like, all right, I need to like find a job in Solana. Like this is where my passions are. I can't be half-assed at two things. Like I need to full send whatever I'm doing in life. That's it. I think that's a rule of thumb for most people, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I think the game changer for me was when I went out to Seattle in the beginning of 2021. And no, 2022.
Yeah, that would have been 2022.
Yeah, that would have been 2022. I went to Seattle to a Solana hacker house, and that's where I met a bunch of like Solana peeps. Like which more importantly, I met Metaplex, a bunch of Metaplex people. And you know, I made a name for myself at that event, and like long story short, I ended up getting like a small contracting job for this startup called Sharky.fi. Right. And you know, I was like, all right, let me work at Sharky.fi. I leave Polygon. So I'm working at Sharky.fi full time, and I'm helping them get to MVP. So I'm doing a lot of smart contract work. Right. This was my first opportunity on Solana. I was working like crazy hours for them just because it was really exciting. Just because like, you know, there wasn't NFT lending at the time wasn't even a thing on Solana. But now that, you know, most people probably know who listen to the podcast that NFT lending actually has more TVL than like the actual has like more volume activity than like the marketplaces do right now.
Oh yeah.
So like shout out to Sharky. So they did that, right? But you know, at the time I was like, Sharky was like a big risk still, right? And I felt like I still needed to grow and work under like a bigger umbrella. So I was also fielding offers from other Solana companies, and I got an offer from Metaplex. And it was a really good offer. And at the time, Metaplex had just raised $47 million.
Hard to turn down Metaplex.
Yeah, right. Metaplex was such a big brand name. So I ended up taking that offer with Metaplex. And
when was that?
I took the offer in March.
Okay.
And so I pretty much ended up. So I was working for Sharky for like, I think 2 or 3 months from like January to March of 2022. And then I started full time at Metaplex in April. And my first day was actually during the Solana Miami event. And yeah, so that was like the Solana Miami event was basically a full circle moment. And I think maybe you want to touch on like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because that day was the day that I had never really heard of you before that, but I remember that was probably, so I did my first podcast with Frank in February 2022, and then we were trying to figure out when we were going to do the next one and everything like that. And then, you know, everything's going on with Solana in Miami, and you post a video of you talking to Gary Vee, and Gary Vee says something along the lines of like, Frank, where you at? You know?
Yeah.
And I remember I was literally playing Fortnite, and Frank texts me, he's like, yo, what's your schedule tomorrow? We're going to run a podcast. And I was like, okay, dope. Let's do it. You know, I'm open. Like, what day do you want to, or what time do you want to? And then we make a time, and then like an hour later, he's like, never mind. What are you doing in like 3 hours? And I was like, oh shit. I guess I'm free, you know? And he's like, okay, dope. I'm going to come over. We're going to run a podcast, and then I'm going to fly out to Miami. I saw that video with Gary Vee. I'm going out there, and I was like, oh, sick. Okay. And he's like, but nobody knows I'm going. So like, don't say shit. So I was like, all right. So I'm like playing Fortnite with my buddies from Michigan. That's kind of one of the ways we stay connected, because with me living out in LA now. So I was like, guys, I got to go. I got to write up these questions for this next Frank podcast, right? So I start writing up these questions. Frank gets to my place probably like 8 p.m. I think we finished that podcast at like 10:30. And then he had like a 40 minute drive to LAX from there. His flight was at like midnight. Makes it to Miami, and then I think he went like incognito mode. Like he was at the events, but nobody really knew. Like he didn't have his like Bitcoin mask on, so nobody really knew who he was. And this was when Frank wasn't doxxed yet. And then I know he went on like a yacht with a bunch of like DeGod holders, some of the bigger DeGod whales, and I believe is that where you guys met too?
Yeah. So actually like when he pulled up to Solana Miami, yeah, he wasn't wearing the mask or anything. He was just acting like a typical pleb, right? Nah, of course Frank's not a pleb. He's a fucking legend. But like it was funny because you would see I was walking around the hacker house, and in the hacker house there's a bunch of computers lined up, right? And I was walking by one of the computers, and I see like someone working with Photoshop and like taking like DGods and like putting it on like some different backgrounds, and I was like, oh, like is that Frank? But then he ended up messaging. I think he messaged me, or he messaged one of the other DGods I had just met a few nights before, who were like the big DGod whales, and we all met up in the cafeteria of the Solana Hacker House, and we sat there for like 4 hours, and that was the first time I got to meet Frank, and he literally was just like, it was just incredible because it was the first time we all got to meet him, and it was me and like Johnny Spartan Holds, who is big DGod whale. Word to God, also like one of the most OG DGod holders, and we just like sat around the table, and he was talking to us about all the upcoming things. This is like before Dust. This is right after Dead God. This is right with Dead Gods. This is right after Dead Gods dropped and Dust dropped. And he was just talking to us about all these different ideas. But at the same time, like a lot of these DGod holders that we were with are like really prominent in like business, and we're giving him a lot of great feedback. So it was just awesome to see like, basically like the community, like us, the community members, helping him out, and he's helping us out. And it was like really beautiful. And like that was like that whole weekend with Solana Miami, and like meeting Frank and Gary V, and meeting some of these like really prominent DGod holders, I think like really shaped like nothing's ever been the same since.
Oh no, because the second podcast episode dropped somewhere around that time. Like it was either while he was there or like right after he got back or something along those lines. And then that's when DGods kind of went full nuclear, and like that was a jumping point for like my career. I know that was a huge moment for a lot of people.
He bought the basketball team after.
Yeah, there was like so many things that were happening right then and there, and it's like, man, that is like such a crazy time to think back about, because it's like the nostalgia vibes of like knowing, like I always say, it's like, when you're doing these podcasts, like it's tiring. You've done it, you know how it is. Like it's like when you're recording one of these, you're tired afterwards, and then I got to go and edit it afterwards, and like, but man, the whole entire Discord was like, when podcast, and they were going crazy. And then podcast came out, and the floor price was just nuking. And that was when I think we went from 80 sold to 130 within like a day or two of that one coming out. And then it was like the DGod trajectory after that was just psychotic, and it would just kept going and kept
30K.
going. And, dude, it was just, it was such a wild time. And that euphoria vibes were super real until the end of May, I believe, when Celsius went bankrupt.
Yeah, Luna, I think. Yeah,
Luna and Celsius and everything, like all that time period. Like, but that month before, man, was just straight euphoric. And I feel like that was, in hindsight, probably like our last peak, right? And then we'll get to the next peak. We'll be good. But like that was the time where we've kind of gone a little downhill there, and then we've just kind of gone roller coaster effect since. But that was such a wild time. I know it was a very important time for a lot of the people here. And so walk me through. So all this stuff happens, right? And so at the time that you were like buying and selling NFTs and stuff like that, what was your like, did you have kind of like a bold thesis as to like, this is why I buy into certain projects or things like that? Because for me, even like I was just buying into everything. So I got rugged a ton of times, right? So my only reason why I even wanted to do the podcast was because I was like, man, I'm tired of getting rugged. Like if I look this motherfucker in the eyes and he rugs me afterwards, like, man, I'm done. And so I was like, you know what? This is my opportunity. I'm going to get to know somebody who's a project founder, and you know what? We'll see what happens. But man, I'm tired of getting rugged. Yeah. I'm tired. And so my whole thing was like, I liked the way he talked, and that was literally my only reason for buying in. It wasn't the art, it wasn't anything like that. I was like, I just liked the kind of the badass energy that came along with that, and then seeing community members kind of doing cool shit and everything like that. But my thesis as to why I bought on a lot of projects became all about the founders after that, because I was like, truly the whole like undoxed meta never really made a ton of sense to me, because I was like, man, I'm buying this JPEG, but I don't know your intentions. I don't know. Do you want to like blow this up? Like, do you want this to be huge? Do you not have that drive? Like, what do you want? And I don't know these things if I haven't talked to you, right?
Yeah.
And that was back in the day where you didn't really see project founders going on Twitter Spaces. You didn't see them doing podcasts. You didn't. They was like they didn't really do shit. They just had to drop a project and people minted it because we were in euphoria vibes and we were like, fuck it, mint. Yeah.
Go.
And so, did you have any theses back then that you were working with, or like, how did you, why did you know to kind of go all in on certain projects?
Yeah. So, I mean, fun fact for everybody is that, dude, DGods was the first NFT I ever minted on any blockchain. And then on top of that, I kind of stuck around basically because like, I think for me, like the community aspect is what sold me on Solana. So the community aspect is what sold me on DGods too. So what was special about DGods in the early days was that everyone in the Discord, there was like moon boys there who were just like when, or like moon, and like saying dumb shit like that. I like saying shit like that too sometimes. But there was a lot of people who were just like speaking very freely. They were like saying curse words and just, saying how they feel. And, Frank was coming into the Discord at the time. I hadn't heard him talk. You would just see him come into the Discord and like say like what's good and shit. But he was like talking very like nonchalantly, like cursing as well. And I was like, yeah, this guy seems cool. Like this vibe right now seems really cool.
Yeah. Super chill.
Yeah. And like DGods had 2 pre-sale rounds.
Yeah.
And both of those rounds, the DGods fucked it up somehow.
Oh yeah.
And each time was just fucking hilarious. Like I remember just like sitting at my desk at like 3 a.m. smoking a bowl, like waiting for like this fucking mint to happen. And like everyone's just like talking hella shit, like fighting the fuck out of Frank. And Frank's just like, commenting back. And I think that those early vibes really cemented DGods for me. And then when DGods minted, I remember I connected with like Fitler and a few other OG DGods. We created Telegram groups, and we were just like, yo, we're going to sustain the floor price. Like, we're all going to buy. Everyone's going to list up like at least 14 or 20 sold. Like,
I always remember people posting that.
Yeah,
we're
going to hold the line. Like, and I was like, all right, let's fucking go. Right. Dude, but like none of us like even like listed. We were just like, no, this is like too cool. Like we were just, yeah, I just got sold on that really early. For me, it was community. Right. And I didn't invest. To be honest, I missed out on a lot of the money during that bull run. I just held on to DGods, and it's okay because like I didn't have a lot of money at the time either. And dude, DGods was over 100x return for me, and I'm still getting returns from it.
Yeah. And
I'm still holding my NFTs from pre-mint, right? So it was like I missed out on a bunch of plays where I could have made like 60, 70K, but like it would have taken up a lot of my time. It would have been a lot of risk. Whereas it's like, I found a really cool community. I heard this man speak a few times and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep my bags with this guy. And, that's kind of what sold me. And I was like, fuck it. Like,
yeah, that's all we need. That's all we need. So, okay. So before we get into Rave3 and everything like that, I want to kind of walk through like why, I guess, did you feel like when did you feel like I want to start a project and kind of get into, so before we even get into like mint day and everything like that, just what was your rationale for like wanting to start a project to begin with?
Yeah, a great question. I think 2 things. I think that the first thing was that I was moving through the Web3 ecosystem really quick, like on a professional level. Like I was learning a lot at one place and then moving on to the next, learning a lot at one place and then moving on to the next. And, at my time at Metaplex, there was just a lot going on in the ecosystem, both with like potential existential turmoil, like with what was happening with Celsius and Luna, a lot of stuff in the NFT space with like DGods. And then, a lot of stuff happening on like, a lot of like rifts happening within like Solana ecosystem started forming at that point too. And I was just like intaking all of this. And I just started to feel that, every time I start to feel like things are getting a little too easy for me, I need to like make the next move. And in the summer of 2022, which was last year, while I was at Metaplex, I realized that a lot of my learnings were starting to like wind down. Like the growth I was having was starting to run down, and I really need to start to push myself and like get out of my comfort zone. So that was the first thing that I started noticing on like a professional level. The second thing was that I was learning so much at Metaplex about like the technical aspects of NFTs. We had a really great head of engineering at the time. His name was Austin, and he would write these crazy documents that would talk about all the possibilities that you can do with NFTs, from like identity to like live streaming to like videos to like having one NFT own another NFT or own like other tokens, like really crazy stuff. And I was like, yo, like I was like in the back of my head, I'm like, I wonder how many like NFT project founders know about like all these cool use cases for NFTs, right? And I was like thinking about like, yo, like you could like apply these use cases in like IRL settings, right? Like you can you can take NFTs and like make them like use them for like live streaming events and stuff, or you can use NFTs for like ticketing. You could use NFTs for like identity, and then you can also like place NFTs in like IRL settings with like Cupcake protocol. I was like, yo, this is wild. Like there's a lot of use cases here that I don't think a lot of NFT project founders are thinking about. I think right now a lot of these projects are focused mainly on culture. And I was like, yo, like, dude, I've been in this space working professionally as an engineer for almost 3 years. Like I have like the prowess to like go ahead and, like maybe take NFTs, like take an NFT collection towards more like a technical side, but also like keep that culture aspect. Cause like I'm like culturally very degen, right? So, given that, I was like, all right, I sit like in a very unique spot where I understand the culture very well, and I also understand the tech very well. And, I was like, all right, like, I think this could give me a good opportunity. And right now the space feels primed to go ahead and like launch an NFT collection. Mind you, this is last year when I decided this, before things got even worse than they are now. But, given those two things, and I was like, I was looking around, I'm like, okay, so like all these NFT projects have like these themes. Like DGods was like God theme, like cool kids, right? And then like, OK Bears was like about like, Wagbo vibes, like, and then there was, like SMBs were all about like we're builders and stuff, but like monkey vibes. There's a lot of monkey, a lot of ape kind of themes going on, but I didn't see any rave themes. And for me, like outside of Web3, my second passion in life is rave culture. Like I'm a big dancer. I met my girlfriend through dancing. It's very important to me. And like when I go to raves, I dance nonstop, but I also get my best ideas. I'll literally be on the dance floor and I'll be thinking about like Rave3 concepts and stuff. And like at the end of the night, I'll like start like talking to my girlfriend, like, yo, like I thought about all this cool shit, whatever. Long story short, I'm like, okay, rave culture, is it's an industry that's growing exponentially. Like, you just look at like all like, they come out with reports every year that talk about like how ticketing's doing, how like artists are doing, etc. All the numbers are up and to the right. And then, the same with NFTs. Like NFTs are just growing. Like it's going to be an ecosystem that's just going to, grow over time. And I have this thesis that in the future, all IRL communities will have a online aspect to it, and a majority of these online communities, like IRL online communities, will have some sort of token aspect to it. So if that's the case, then rave culture is eventually going to have some sort of like token gated, some token related online community. And I want to be one of the first people to experiment with that. And I think that given my background and my connections in the rave scene and my background connections in Web3, it makes me the perfect person to build something like this. And that's where the idea of Rave3 really started. It was like I felt like personally I'm the best person to like lead this kind of effort. So I began working on the idea and the art on Rave3 in July of last year. I was in Solana, Paris, and that's where I met. That's where I connected with. That's where I met one of my artists, and from there it was just like, all right, full steam ahead.
There we go. Yeah, no, I mean it's there's no perfect time to launch a project. There's no like, I think back to when, DGods minted and everything like that. I even feel like that time in hindsight was a bad time to mint. Like there was October 2021 through like February or March of 2022 was pretty shitty. Like there were a lot of rugs minted back then. There was a lot of like, that was back in the day of Reptilian Renegade and all that kind of shit, right? And it felt like, so it feels like in general we go through these waves of like really good mints, and then all of a sudden a bunch of shit mints, and then there's really these times where there's just, it just feels like there's never really the perfect time to mint, you know? And but I think that one of the biggest things that I look for is like, regardless of what happens with somebody's mint, or regardless of what happens with the timing of the market when they mint and everything, it's those projects that stay super consistent that are ones that tend to really take off, right? And so when you bring up all these different things about like where the space is going and like rave culture and everything like that, like, yeah, rave culture keeps growing. Like I remember going to college, and we put on these like big paint electronic music festivals called Dayglow, and then Life in Color was the new name they changed to eventually. So yeah, we were doing a ton of shit with them. I was working directly with those founders when I was in college, and I remember like the first time we did one of our first shows was with Avicii, and I remember they were like, "Mark, do you know who Avicii is?" And I was like, "Who's this Avicii guy?" I was like, I don't know who this dude is. Mind you, I'm talking 2010, 2011. This is a long time ago. And so I've seen how the culture's grown over time. And, we've got Electric Forest in Michigan. That was a huge festival that everybody goes to. And I've seen the growth of that over time. And then, EDC Vegas is so huge. And there's EDC Miami. And there's all these different things that go on, all these different festivals. And, like, it's continuing to grow. And I think a lot of times when the crossover of Web3 and Web2 and the ways that people have traditionally done things and the way things are kind of going, it's a matter of time before they kind of converge. And we're not there yet, but we're getting there, right? Yeah. And I think it's like finding that niche ahead of time, you're right, of being like kind of that first mover advantage of like get there. So then when the people do come, they see it and they're like, oh, hey, I want to be a part of this, right? So walk me through. Obviously, like the last few weeks have been super interesting because there's, when you're getting ready for mint, I can only imagine what it's like to be a founder. And it feels like everybody's mint goes shitty. Like I can very rarely name a mint that's gone well that I've been a part of. And it feels like for the most part, there's people that are happy. There's people that are super angry, and there's people that call you a rug pull. There's people that call you, an idiot or whatever. Like there's always something that goes wrong. Right. And quite literally, I can't name the last mint where like afterwards everybody was like, yeah, that was smooth. Like it just doesn't happen. D-Gods was a shit show. Even Mad Lads, as good as that was, there were people that were like, I was put into the honeypot, I'm pissed, whatever. So it's like even that, which still got a lot of love, there were still some people who were angry, right? There's never a great time. There's always going to be something that goes wrong. So walk me through. Mint for Rave3 did not go according to plans, we'll call it, right?
Yeah.
So walk me through, what all was that like, and kind of what did you learn from the whole process?
Yeah, for sure. So just want to say one thing for all of my holders or all the people that may have dumped after mint. Like, I take full responsibility for all of the chaos and all of the errors that really ensued during that mint process. And yeah, let me just get into it. But I wanted to start by saying that. But basically, the game plan was to mint on June 2nd, just because I had a gut feeling that like we needed to mint by the end of the May, because the markets have just been really shaky lately. A lot of crazy news has come out, so I was like, we need to get out by end of May. We settled on June 2nd, which was a Friday. However, we were dealing with art generation issues leading up to it, and we thought we could have resolved it by Friday. We couldn't. It was a lot of technical issues, so that was the first thing. We delayed the mint 3 times on Friday, June 2nd, and by the third time, I was like, "Yo, we're pushing the mint back to June 7th, which is 5 days later. That way, it'll give us enough time to like get everything in order." Like, it felt like Friday, like we were definitely like rushing things. So, I was like, all right, I'm gonna give ourselves 5 days, take a breather. We had pulled like several all-nighters. Like, we just need to like chill for a sec and get everything composed. So then June 7th came along. And basically every part of the mint got fucked up on like a technical level. From the mint process, there was at points people couldn't mint. That was one thing for like 10 minutes. So it was really scary when you saw the bar just not moving. That was one thing. The airdrop to pre-sale holders got totally wrecked. We had to manually airdrop pre-sales to holders, which took weeks. Like we're still dealing with that now. And then the freeze, our NFTs, like, all the NFTs are frozen after mint until they go live on secondary at specified time. NFTs were frozen for 24 hours because there was an error with the script that we were running to unthaw the NFTs. So that also, that 24 hours also held our mint funds in escrow. So we didn't even have access to our mint funds for those 24 hours. And we were going to use those mint funds for, we were going to do this collaboration with Sharky where we were going to offer up like insurance basically at like where you could take a loan at mint price against your Raver and like go out and like, buy more Ravers, just do some more degen shit. That was something that we wanted to do, but we couldn't even do that. And by the time that the 24 hours had passed, our mint price was already below floor. I mean, our floor price was already below mint. So that put us in like another issue, like, like just shot ourselves in the foot right there. So, it was a lot of technical issues. And basically, we did the whole team did a retrospective that following week. And what it turned out was that like we overestimated the technicalities around PNFTs, which are programmable NFTs, which allow us to like really take control over the collection, both from like a royalty perspective and like on-chain perspective. And that really hampered us. And the engineers that I had that were focused on that, have a lot of experience launching mints, but that was their first time launching a PNFT mint. So, it was just, I would say that it was a bit of hubris. Like we just, we thought that, we've done mints before. Like I worked at Metaplex. Like we know how to, like I can launch my own candy machine, etc. Like we got this. And it turned out that like, we fucking didn't get it. And
we don't got this.
And so, I talked to some people about it, and two pieces of feedback that I got and two things that like I'm taking with me is one, I can't do everything myself. Even though I feel like I have a strong technical background and, I have a strong business background, like I need to be able to, hand things off to people and like trust that, I need to be able to trust that like, other people can get stuff done just besides me. So, I think leading up to mint, we had a lot of people reach out to offer help in different areas. And I was just like, no, like me and my core team, we got this. Right. But, that's definitely something like I need to like make sure it's like, like you can't take more than you chew. You can't bite off more than you chew. Right. And then the second thing I got from a friend was that, a friend told me, he was like, you're spending money on things that you don't need to spend money on, and you're not spending money on things that you should be spending money on. And one of the things that we should have been spending money on was making sure that this mint and everything around the art generation was up to speed. Like no matter how much it would have cost, we should have just like delegated that to somebody who had more experience on it. And we did it. And I had friends who have like dev shops or who were working in the space who could have helped us. We even had all the launch pads. All the launch pads were offering us to mint on their launch pad for free. Like for free. And these launch pads typically charge 4.5 to 9% of mint. But I was just like, no, because we want to do our own custom experience. So again, like, those are two lessons that I've taken away. And now I'm like, learning that, essentially what we've done is, we've reshaped the team a little bit, removed some people, added some people. I'm looking to like delegate more of my responsibilities to, to some of the people that we brought on to help, like move things forwards, both on the technical and on the BD side of things. And, I'm discerning a lot of like our expenses. I'm like looking like, okay, I think like, we really should be putting money here, even though it's a lot, it makes sense. Right. And I think like learning to manage that aspect is like really important. And yeah, I'm just glad that I had that I was able to have like a very honest retrospective with my team, and that I was able to get a lot of feedback from a lot of really smart people right after the mint as well. I think that's really helped in like, maybe and help me keep my confidence in like going forward.
Yeah. And I think for people who are watching this, the frustration when a project doesn't moon right off rip is something that I get it. You know, when I mint something, I want it to moon right away, right? Like I'm looking to check that Magic Eden. I'm looking to see that 30 spot right off there, right?
We love that God candle.
Yeah, we love that. But like the reality of it is that rarely ever happens, right? And I think at times, like, you know, when we all have our ideas of how things are going to go, right? There's times I'll be talking to somebody after a podcast. They'll go, when's this dropping? I'll go, you know, a week out, right? And it ends up being 2.5 weeks, right? It shit happens. Like there's so many things that happen in life that you can't control. And so I always kind of I have this core philosophy in life of like, as long as I can look myself in the mirror at the end of the night and go, hey, I did everything that I could, right? Like it wasn't me half-assing. It wasn't me, you know, whatever. It wasn't me being dumb. It was me trying everything I could, but I fucked up, you know? If that's the case, then I can sleep well at night. And then I go, okay, let me learn from that. Let me grow from that. Let me be the best version of myself, right? But like, you know, all you can do is try your best, right? And I think when it comes to this space, there's this expectation of like everybody's going to do everything right, you know? And the part that kind of makes me laugh sometimes is like an experienced dev in like this kind of work means you've been doing it for like 2 years, right?
Yo.
So I've been doing my podcast for longer than that, right? So like, you know, the photography, I did that for 7 years and I didn't consider myself experienced until I was like 3 or 4 years in, right? So it's like, you know, they say you got to put in your like 10,000 hours. I don't even know if you can do that in 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, so the reality of it is there's a lot of times that we're growing and we're learning and we're trying new shit. And that's the whole, you know, the whole mentality of this whole space is like, you know, try things and break things and move forward. Right. And so with that, you're going to break things from time to time. Right. So, you know, I know that there's that feeling inside a community where there's that bummer part of like, you know, shit, like I was hoping this would moon, it didn't, you know, whatever, right? But I also look at that as opportunity because the expectations when a project rips right off rip make it really difficult to maintain that, right? If a project mints and you guys minted at 5.5 Sol, if you guys ran to like 40, then you got to all of a sudden try to maintain that. That's so hard. Like, it's not even possible. So the reality of it is, like, it puts you at this disadvantage of now all of a sudden you've got people who bought in at 40 and they're pissed because, you know, if it falls down to, you know, 15 or whatever, 15 is a great floor, but then it's like, but then there's somebody who bought in at 40 who's now pissed that it's at 15, right? So the reality of it is this shit is hard. This shit is hard. And I think people need to like keep that in mind is that there's a lot of good people in the space who are trying their ass off, but the shit's just hard, right? So, you know, the fact that you're learning and the fact that like you're growing from this, I mean, that's really all you can do, right? And so talk to me about, you know, obviously a big core part of what you're doing is community, right? Big part of rave culture is community, is sharing that love and being, you know, and people being kind to each other, strangers that they haven't met before and yada, 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 right? And it's a similar vibe to what we see a lot of times in a really great community in Web3 is that same, you know, just super kind to each other, regardless of whether you know each other in person and things like that. So talk to me about like, how are you working to kind of rebuild that culture after going through something like this? Because yeah, when you mint in the floor price moons, that culture kind of sets itself. People are like, oh, hey, this is happy vibes. We're all good, right? The reality of it is that rarely ever maintains, and you have to do what you got to do to try to get that back. So for you, what are you doing to keep the community, you know, showing love to each other and also like growing that love for you and you growing your love for them and everything like that?
Taking out the knee pads, bro.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit. I mean, you know, like I think, you know, what I've done pretty well so far and what I've learned is that like I need to spend a lot of time with my community. So I'm in the Discord, you know, first thing in the morning, I'm in the Discord, midday, I'm hopping back in. Every time I have free time, I'm in the Discord and I'm chatting with my holders. And, you know, not only that, I'm in the DMs with a lot of my holders and I'm talking to them like, yo, what's the vibes today? How you feeling? Like, you know, like, are you like, is there anything else in the market that you're minting? Like, I'm just trying to, you know, build trust because that's the thing that we lost. We lost trust. We lost trust because we were, you know, we market ourselves as a team that, you know, has a founder who is technical and we have solid devs. We showcased that we could build some cool tech with the candy bracelets that we released. We showcased the bull board, which is another experiment that we're going to drop soon. Which is, you know, a very technical product, right? So we lost that trust. So, you know, what I've been doing is like trying to earn the trust back of my holders. And the way you do that is by, you know, admitting to your admitting to everything that you fucked up on, showing that, you know, you have a game plan, like a personal game plan and a professional game plan to, you know, re-earn that trust and to, you know, be better going forward. And then, you know, it's just spending time with your holders, like letting them know every day, like, yo, like this is what we worked on like over the last weekend, or this is what we worked on over the last few days, giving them like, you know, a fair amount of updates without like overextending, you know, yourself with the updates. Cause then people get like a little like, yo, what the fuck is this update about? Like, this is just like nothingness, like, you know, so like finding that balance, you know. But I think that I've done a pretty good job. I've also like, you know, like once a week I've been like dropping my Calendly link. I'm like, yo, like let's just set up a call, right? And like yesterday too, I had a call. Actually, 2 days ago, I had a call with someone who got in whitelist, and then bought a few on secondary early on, and now has been accumulating nonstop and has over 100 of our NFTs. And I got on a call with them for the first time, and they, you know, and I was just like, you know, I let them know about like, you know, what we're cooking on. I asked them like, you know, what they thought on like, you know, where we fucked up, how we can do better. Is there anything you want to see from me? And, you know, this person just really appreciated that I took time out of my day to like have this conversation, right? Because I'm really trying to like build this community brick by brick. Like I want to be friends with these people. I want these people to be friends with me. And I hope that, you know, when Rave3 gets above mid price and, you know, when things are really fucking cooking, that, you know, I can meet up with all these people and like, you know, hug them and party with them and like rave with them. Like that's what I want, right? But I know that it's going to take a while to get there, and I'm like, I'm fine with it. Like I'm fine with it. Like I understand the consequences of my actions. I understand the consequences of bad results, and I'm just looking forward, and I look forward every day to like having the opportunity to get on the phone with these people and like talk to them in the DMs. Cause like each time I'm doing that, like I know that like this person cares. And it's the same thing with people that are fudding us. I wake up every morning to like an insane amount of FUD, which is like kind of it could like you know, it sets a tone for the day for sure. Like, but I'm like at the end of the day, like, you know, that it makes me feel some type of way for sure in the morning. But by midday, I'm like, you know what? I'm grateful that people are still talking about Rave3. Like, you know, like it means that people care, right? And it's like we're not going anywhere. Like we're gonna keep cooking. Like we'll take all this FUD on the chest. I'll take all the clown emojis on the chest. But we're gonna move forward, and we're just gonna continue to be communicative and let everyone know that we're still here and that we're still building, and everything and all the hype that we garnered leading up to mint. Like that wasn't just fluff. Like we're like, it's like we're the real deal. Like I understand. I feel like I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I get NFTs, and I want to showcase that to my holders, and I want that to be reflective in the value of our NFTs, and in like just and like be reflective in the community. Like
yeah. I mean, and that's really all you can do. You know, at the end of the day, like everything's a learning lesson, right? And if you're learning, like that's all you can do. And so it's admitting when there's an L and kind of owning that shit and then moving forward, you know, and that's just life. You know, that truly is just life. It's like there's no startup in this world, whether it's Web3 related, Web2 related, whatever, that just goes perfect. Like fuck ups happen.
Bro, I've taken a lot of L's in my life.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've been at points where like this is rock bottom, and I've always climbed my way out of it.
Yeah, because you learn from that shit.
Dude, I just learned, bro. I'm just like, you know, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to be better. Like, sometimes you got to remind yourself, like, who the fuck you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to look in the mirror and be like, bro, like, I didn't work this hard to come this far for nothing. Like, you know, and, you know, I've had moments like that. Startups, bro. I've been in startups not like my whole life. Like, this is just the grind. Yeah. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. Right?
You don't get to the point of being successful without feeling like a loser a few times, right?
Yeah,
like you
exactly,
gotta feel like that a few times, and then you remind yourself, like you said, you remind yourself who the fuck you are, and you go, okay, hey, but if I am that guy, right, then I gotta grow and learn from this and be the best version of myself, right? And so, you know, there's definitely been times in the last, you know, few years where I've thought to myself, like, you know, like, Marc, Like, what are you doing? You know, a few times in life where that's happened. And then I've been like, hey, like, you know, you can figure this the fuck out. Like, figure it out, right? You can feel bad for yourself for like 5 minutes and then get back to work, right? Like, it's human nature. There's times when something goes shitty that you just feel bad for yourself. And then it's like, all right, have your like 5 minutes of pity time and then get right back to work because you got this. Like, and it's every person who's ever been successful in life has gone through that shit. Anybody who says, oh, I've never doubted myself or whatever. It's like, bro, that's human nature to like, you get kicked in the face a few times and you're like, damn. And then once again, you feel bad for yourself for like 5 minutes and then you get back to work, right? And it's like the greatest people in the world, they learn from those moments, they grow from those moments, and you get better from there. That's how you learn, that's how you grow. You don't get to where you want to be by just having nonstop W's. Because if you just have nonstop W's, you're gonna be a pompous asshole, right? Because you're just gonna have this cocky attitude of I can't lose, you know, whatever. You don't want that. You want a few L's every once in a while. You gotta get punched a few times. You know, we learn from that, right?
Facts.
So and you talked a second ago about the people who are fighting on the timeline and stuff. It's like, man, the worst part is when you wake up and nobody's talking on the timeline, right? It's like if they're talking on the timeline, it gives you an opportunity to change their mind. You know, I look at it all the time of like, I can't control if people like me or don't like me or whatever, but what I can do is I'm going to stay consistent. And I hope if somebody's sitting there and if they're watching this podcast and they're like, I think Marc's a trash, you know, host, you know, whatever. I hope over time I can change your mind, you know, but like the only way I'm going to do that is by consistently showing up all day, every day. I'm not going to look at them and be like, I'm great. No, like, you know, I gotta prove myself, right? Yeah. And that's just really what it comes down to is like at the end of the day, over and over and over again, you know, proving yourself and then also continuing to improve, right? Like how great we think we are today, we should be 10 times better 2 years from now, right? But it's all of that is from growing and learning and, you know, diving into new stuff and learning from that and having conversations with somebody where they say, hey, I like what you're doing here. I don't like what you're doing here. And then you learn from that. Doesn't mean you have to take every bit of their advice, but you have to learn from their perspective, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. So I want to get into real quick. So obviously when we're in this space, we have a lot of great projects in this space. And so I think it's important to learn from those that have done it and done it right, projects that maybe they've taken a few L's, but they've bounced back from those. You know, what are some projects that you look to as motivating projects, people, motivating founders and things like that? We're going to get rid of Frank in this situation. We know we both love Frank, but outside of that,
Salute Frank.
What about, who are some other project founders that you're just motivated by and inspired by?
Yo, for sure. Yo, Galactic Gecko's off the rip, bro. Like genuine articles, yo. That guy is a fucking Chad. Like, he has I'm not like too caught up on like the details of it, but Galactic Gecko's rugged, and then this guy, Genuine Articles, came in, bought the project, bought the IP, bought a bunch of geckos, and essentially like. I'm an OG in the space, right? So I've seen the Galactic Geckos, and I've always thought the art was so sick, like so like unique, and I don't know, just like it gives me like real cool sci-fi vibes, and I would say like January and February of this year, I saw a lot of geckos on the timeline, and I bought one, and I hopped into their Discord, and it was crazy how vibrant the community was. Like the conversation was nonstop, and it's a much more mature community relative to DeGods. But it was great. Like people were just giving great feedback. Everyone, I really feel like it's actually a lot of older people in Galactic Geckos. But every time they have spaces, there's always like a lot of the community in there. They have like great mods, and seeing them essentially come, like seeing how strong this community is from like at one point being a rug, it's pretty wild to see.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And like they're building, they're working on, they're very long-term thinking at Galactic Geckos, like the community and the founder, like they have perfect synchronization on expectations, right? Like I don't know of any other project that has a community like that has like the founder has set expectations and the holders are 100% aligned. Like I never see any Galactic Gecko FUD. Like why isn't the floor pumping, etc. Like I bought mine at like 42 SOL, and I think right now it's at like 39. But I'm chilling, bro. Like this community is, as long as this community remains strong as hell, and like Genuine Articles continues to show up every day, like I'm bullish on that. So that's someone who I look up to, right? Someone who can like take nothing and like build something that I believe is truly beautiful. And I think Solana is very proud of having that community. geckos.
There we go. There we go. And then, okay, so let's get into from there. So talk to me about, obviously, we've gone through Mint Day. We've gone through all of that. Talk to me about if somebody's sitting here today, they're a holder, they're a prospective holder, they're debating buying in, they're debating listing. Why should somebody be bullish on the future of you as a founder and then the project in itself?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. So, I think one thing that I think I said this a little earlier is that I personally believe that there's not a lot of founders in the space who have been working in Web3 both on a professional level, but also have been like culturally involved for a while as well, like as a DGen. So I think having like the technical prowess that I have, as well as like the true DGen culture, like true genuine like personality of a DGen, like combine those two things gives me a very unique perspective as a leader, because now I can like, I can like have like good guesses on where I think the space is headed, right? Both from like cultural and a technical perspective. And you got to have some insight into the future because things move so quick in the space, right? So like, I think that gives me a competitive advantage and gives me an edge. And, being like a young team, being like a young founder, like I'm ready to like, move and pivot where we need to. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but I pivoted on Rave3 multiple times. Like I rewrote the white paper a bunch of times, like over 13 times. And the paper is like 10 pages and I never even put it out, but it was like over 10 pages long. And it was constantly changing because of the changes I saw in the space. Right. And like what we had planned, right. We have an internal roadmap going through Q4. Right. And all of that can change if need be. We just got to like, I'm so focused on, not necessarily what the meta is right now, but what it's going to be. Right. So I think having a forward leader is really important, especially in this space, because things get old really quick or get like, they just depreciate really quick. And I think, in terms of why people should be bullish on Rave3 in general is two things. I think the first thing is that Rave3 really wants to be bold and really wants to be different, right? So a few things, like we're dropping a few announcements in the coming weeks that are really going to set us apart, both on a technical level and like on a cultural level than most collections. And I think that comes again from like the culture of like the team. Like all of us are kind of like true degens, like true risk takers. Like we really believe in the ethos of like Web3, like wanting to take risks, wanting to like, and I think that like having like that bold and like innovative drive as a project is something that is really going to take Rave3 to like a different level and like a more differentiated stance than most collections. And I think the last thing is that Rave3 is, off the rip, you immediately think rave culture, right? But everything that we've done up to this point and everything that we had planned is very DGen focused, like very NFT DGen focused. Like we understand DGen culture, and we want to become a household name in Web3. Like we want every NFT DGen, even if they don't like raves, they don't like EDM, but they like, gamified experiences. They like unique holder experiences. They like all that stuff, all the stuff that, you've seen in the past, but like, we might throw like our own twist on it. Right. If they like that, they're going to love us. And that's why we want to, and we believe that we can do that with the Rave3 brand. But as the Web3 ecosystem grows, as the pie begins to grow, and as, more Web2 people come in, maybe in the next bull cycle, Rave3 has a brand that will be able to very easily extend into the Web2 aspects, just because again, like we have that rave mentality, right? So like when it comes to, garnering the attention of like normies, I think that's going to be very, very feasible for us, especially with my connections in the rave scene, with the content creators, etc., with like the venues, with the promoters. Like those are all things that we want to activate later down the line. But right now we're very focused on like honing in our current community, making a name within Web3, right? And all that other stuff, it's in the back of our heads, but it's all part of the bigger picture.
100%. So talk to me about like a year from now. What do you want people to think of when they think of the Rave3 community?
Yeah, I want people to think, I want Rave3 to be known as one of the most positive and uplifting communities. I want people to not call Rave3 a community. I want people to call Rave3 a Rave fam. Like I want like these people to be like my fucking like I don't personally have a lot of friends because I have it's like I guess it's family to me, bro. Like I have like back home I grew up with like these three guys. And like those are family. Like they're all, they're not really family by blood, but like that's my family. And like people that like I bring into my circle, like I don't have a lot of time. I work a lot, right? So I have a lot of time to like give to people who are just like, acquaintances and stuff like that. And I want that same vibe to be held in my community. Like I want people to like really like foster like deep relationships, similar to the way I did it with D Gods, right? So like, like a year from now, I want people to be like, damn, like, I've made some like pretty intense connections in Rave3, and like people who don't hold Rave3, I want them to look at Rave3 like, yeah, these MFers have a really strong community, and they've done a lot of really great things, not only for their holders, but for the greater Solana ecosystem and for Web3, both from like a cultural and a technical perspective.
There we go. I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So, okay. So lastly, I feel like I have a few more questions, but man, this has been great. You mentioned the bull board a few times. So walk me through that real quick.
Yeah, for sure. So the bull board was one of our big marketing points leading up to our mint. And for people who don't know, I'll break it down into 3 components. But basically, the TLDR is the bull board is a game that we create. It's a social game that we created to promote positivity on the timeline. And we got this idea because, going to market with Rave3, I was like, I want to bring value to the space. Like we can't just come in and take. We have to like figure out how we can provide value to not only our holders, but the greater Solana ecosystem. And I was like, all right, what's troubling Solana a lot right now? And it was toxicity, right? Like SBF rugged us really hard. We have influencers who, talk hella shit on like projects on Solana. We have companies that are talking shit to each other on the timeline, super toxic on all different areas, all over Solana. I was like, you know what? Like, we need to figure out a way to combat toxicity. We need to figure out a way to spread the positive vibes. Rave culture is all about positivity and like spreading the love. So I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to come up with a social game to promote positivity. And that's where the bull board came in. Now, the first component of the bull board is a leaderboard. So if you go to rave3.io, there's a leaderboard. And on this leaderboard, you see every Solana CT profile. So like there's Marc Colcer on there, I'm on there, like Frank D Gods because he's still like Solana guy. Like you have like genuine articles. You have like anybody who's rocking like any PFP that's Solana related, even some Ethereum as well. Like you're on this leaderboard. We grabbed all of the crypto Twitter people. We put them on this leaderboard. And what we're doing is we're tracking all of their Twitter accounts. So all of your activity is being tracked right now. And we're scanning the tweets. And if your tweets are positive, like we're taking note of that. And if they're being negative, we're taking note of that. And if it's being neutral, we're taking note of that. But we're also taking note of, does this tweet complete a task that we've created? And we have a list of tasks. And all these tasks are focused around positivity and community building for Rave3, right? So one of the tasks that we have is like saying GM every morning, right? You can earn 100 points just for saying GM. And like GM's super positive. Like everyone loves a GM post.
Oh yeah.
Like, like the famous ZK Shark post of like his food. Like we love looking at that. Or like someone posting like, a GM with their dog, like positive. We like that on the timeline, right? Another way you can earn a task is like, tweeting something bullish about like a Solana NFT collection, right? So like Marc Colcer wakes up and is like, yo, like, I'm really bullish on Galactic Geckos. Like they're a top project, great founder, right? The bull board is going to, we're going to be scanning your Twitter account and we're going to come up, and when you tweet that, we're going to see that. We're going to be like, oh, this completes a task. Here's points. And, and then we'll reward your account with points. And so that's like that's a bull board right there. So it's keeping track of points. You're earning plur points, and I'll explain what the plur points are going to be used for later. But the second component is the bull bot. Now, like the thing is that like, we have this really cool leaderboard. And it's really nicely designed and it's on this website somewhere in the metaverse. But like, nobody probably really cares, and it's really hard to kind of get people to like go to something to do anything in general. It's really hard. So we created this bull bot, which is a Twitter bot that will essentially be on the timeline rewarding people who complete tasks. So say for instance, like you complete that task, the bull bot would then like come to your tweet and be like, yo, W take Marc, here's 1,000 points.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's like, so now the bull board is actively participating on the timeline, engaging with the community, right? And like finding ways to like say like, hey, like we're here, this game is live. Even though you didn't sign up for this, even though you didn't like claim your account yet, like you're earning points, right? We made the game really passive because we want it to be as frictionless as possible in order for everyone to participate. So it's like, you know, even if Marc, like let's add one more piece of the scenario. You're not even a Rave3 holder, but you're still earning points. So that's how passive the game is. And we want it for, we want everyone in the ecosystem to be involved because we believe that everybody should be promoting positivity, right? But like, you know, the second component, I mean, you know, the next piece of it is that like for Rave3 holders, you'll be receiving boosted points, right? And I won't give away too much on how that's going to work. But if you're holding a Rave3, like if I were you, I would definitely buy a Rave3 NFT when this game goes live because you will receive a multiple on the points that you could earn during the duration of the game. So that's where the benefit for the Rave3 holders comes in, right? So now we have Rave3 holders who are earning points, and then we also have people outside of Rave3 who are also earning points. We have this bull bot, which is actively participating on the timeline, showing people like, hey, like, you know, this is what's going on, right? Like this, there's this bull board, there's a social game happening, right? And then the final component is the reward system, is the rewards, right? I can't give out too much information about that right now because, you know, I like to like drive a little speculation, I like to get people a little hype, and we're going to have a really cool announcement around it. But essentially, you're going to be able to, at the end of the game, which is, you know, going to be a few weeks long, at the end of the game, you're going to be able to take your points and you're going to be able to convert them for another type of reward. And it may or may not be another digital asset. Who knows? Either way, it's going to be very beneficial for the greater Solana ecosystem and very, very, very beneficial for my holders. And again, like the whole game is focused on like positivity and also rewarding my holders because my holders are number one, baby.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I love that. Anything to spread more positivity on the timeline, we definitely need that, especially during a bear market. So definitely love that. But yeah. So yesterday you were telling me a little bit about a little spicy thing that you got coming up soon. You were talking about, you know, being innovative, trying new things, seeing how it works, and all that kind of shit. So tell me or drop the knowledge to everybody else of what I think by the time this video goes live, people will know about it. But talk to me about what you're announcing and why you're announcing it.
Facts. Yeah. So yeah, I guess like one thing we talked about too is that like it's not always about being first, it's about how you execute things, right? But in this case, I plan on executing this and making a lot of noise and also being the first one to do it. And what we're doing is that we're going to be the first NFT collection in history to block AMMs. And for people who don't know what AMM is an automatic market maker where NFTs, where essentially you can like NFTs no longer are just like these JPEGs. They become like more like tokens, and you can essentially create a pool where you put, you know, a bunch of your NFTs in and a bunch of like Solana in, and people can buy and sell instantly into this pool, right? So now people aren't even looking at like the pictures, right? They're not even thinking about like the community or like the culture of like any of the relevance of like the actual like hard work that's been put into the NFTs. They're just trying to like make profit and like, you know, treat it like a shitcoin basically, right? So we're going to be the first collection to take a stance of art over algorithm, right? Like essentially, you know, I think that a lot of people have really come and have been pretty vocal about AMMs, but, you know, the data hasn't really been conclusive up until recently that, you know, taking NFTs and turning them more into shitcoins, whether you're doing it through AMMs or doing it on a marketplace like Blur, is not great for the Solana for the NFT ecosystem. It actually reduces like the potential for like, you know, floor prices to like fucking rip to Valhalla. It reduces your NFT to just a token, and it gets rid of like the community aspect, the art aspect, and the culture aspect. It really takes away from the fun. So like one thing that AMMs do is they create these giant sell walls, and essentially like as people buy NFTs from an AMM, the price only incrementally goes up. Whereas like, back in the day, like people would just list a bunch of NFTs at like different prices, etc. Right. And like the floors just weren't as big. And AMMs take away a lot from like true price discovery. Right. This is something that people don't really understand. And it really makes it a more gamified experience in a negative way. I know NFTs should be very gamified in a lot of different aspects, but AMMs just, I really feel like they take the soul out of NFTs. So that's why we're taking a stance and we're banning them. We're not going to be banning every AMM at once because there's a lot of technical oversight that we need to do. So it's going to be rolled out over time. But yeah, we're going to be the first ones to do it. And if it doesn't work out, we can always roll this back. But like, this is our belief. And like, we're not saying no to like volume. Because like one thing that AMMs do is quote unquote, like, they bring volume to a collection. We want volume. We want people trading our NFTs. But we want people trading our NFTs to find their forever NFT. We want people to like, we want our people to like, look at these NFTs. I want them to make profits, yeah, etc. But I want them to, find value in mid rares, right? Because like one thing is like, these AMMs, they reduce these NFTs to like, okay, they take mid rares and like commons and just like bundle them up, and now it's just mid rares and commons, and then there's like the grails, right? And like it's basically like this huge floor, and then you got this big spike to the grails, and it's like, like this kind of takes away the fun. Like, Rave3, we put a lot of work into the art, and we designed our art to have aesthetically pleasing NFTs from the commons to the mid rares to the grails, right? So, I think that AMMs are taking away from what we're creating, right? So we're trying to, we're not trying to like fight back on this. We're trying to just like take a stance on it, like it's all love at the end of the day, but it's like, this is not what we want for our collection. And I think that more collections are going to see this, right? And I hope that that like the reduction of like more tokenizing NFTs becomes beneficial, and it will showcase like on the floor prices of a lot of collections.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see how this plays out. We talked about that yesterday, and I said that to you. I was like, hey, I'm definitely curious to see how it plays out, and I definitely believe that in the space you have to try things, and some things are going to work and some things aren't, but either way you're going to learn from it regardless, right? So I'm hoping it works out for you. I hope it has a big boom on the floor and everything like that, but the reality of it is like you don't make progress without trying new things. So I like it. I like the energy behind that decision, and dude, in general, I'm excited for Rave3 and everything, everywhere you're taking it and all that, and all the lessons that you've learned and everything that you're going to continue to learn and grow the project, grow the community and everything like that. So dude, if there's is there anything you want to add before we wrap up here today? Ben, this has been awesome.
Yeah, bro. I just want to shout you out really quick. Like, we've been chatting like this whole week, and you've given me so much great feedback. For people who are like, listening, who hopefully listen to the end of this podcast, like, Marc Colcer gets it, bro. Like, you're literally sitting with you're sitting with me as a founder. You're sitting with all these other great founders, and you have so much insight, and like, it was really cool to like spend time with you and get a lot of feedback from you on like, where you think Rave3 should go, or like where you think we're messing up. And like a lot of the stuff that you gave me, I'm taking back and I'm executing on like right away. So I just want to like shout you out. I really appreciate you. And I encourage anyone who's a project founder who's like thinking about like, taking, bringing themselves more to light to come on this podcast. Not only for like, the content, but also for, getting some one-on-one time with Marc Colcer, because this dude, I feel like you kind of remind me of like Joe Rogan, how Joe Rogan just absorbs all the information. Now is like this, like, he's like low key like a genius now, because he's just like talked to all these really brilliant people. And I feel like you're kind of like having that Joe Rogan effect, where you're talking to all these really dope people and taking all this insight, and now you can like just give it back to the people that that you're meeting up with, like young founders like me. So I really appreciate that. And then I just want to say, like, to all my holders, I appreciate all of you. And this is this is very early innings, but we're not going anywhere. We have a long road ahead of us, and I'm really fucking excited. Like, I'm really fucking excited. Like, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't, right? I would have not came out to LA if I wasn't. Like, I am fucking amped, and I'm ready to like take whatever. I'm ready to take the FUD and the clown emojis as we move forward. But like, hopefully that just reduction of that. And to all the people that are like are hating on the timeline, like, I see you. Like, I hope that I can convince you otherwise. that, you know, we're going to be a collection that's really going to make a difference and have a positive impact on the space. And yeah, yo, just get ready, yo. We have a bunch of announcements cooking, and yo, I'm just fucking amped, bro. NFTs aren't going anywhere. NFT communities aren't going anywhere. Web3 isn't going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Let's fucking go.
Let's go. That's a drop the mic moment. Drop your socials. Oh, actually, you might change your Twitter name. So just drop the Rave3 Twitter.
Yeah, Rave3 NFT. That's it.
There we go. And check the description for your new username if you have one by the time this comes out. But, dude, I appreciate you. Appreciate the compliment. Appreciate the love. That means a ton. And, dude, excited in general just to see where Rave3 goes and where you go as a founder. And but with that said, I know you got a flight to catch. So appreciate you coming on, dude. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And we'll chat with you guys soon.
Let's fucking go.
See you guys.